I get nominated for 3 Nobel Peace Prizes, different subjects. And I told the story the other night. I was in Florida, we're in Pennsylvania. I told our First Lady, darling, we're going to have the greatest publicity I've ever had tonight. I got nominated for the Nobel Prize. Do you know what that is, darling? Let's go home. So I leave for the first time in a long time early. I get home, I turn on the television. They talked about your floods in Iowa. They talked about how's Iowa doing the crops? How's this happening? How are they doing in Florida? 3, 4 stories, one after another. Where's my Nobel Peace Prize? They don't talk about it. I said, you know, darling, this news is a little tough. It's a little tough to crack.
That was President Trump last week complaining to a crowd in Iowa that coverage of the historic flooding in the state and a hurricane overshadowed news of his Nobel Peace Prize nominations. Joining us now, professor of history at Tulane University, who knows a thing or two about the Nobel Peace Prize, Walter Isaacson, and associate professor of political science at Fordham University and political editor at thegrio.com, Christina Greer, joins us. Great to have you both. Walter, I'll start with you. Yes, complaining about his nomination not getting covered, also calling for Joe Biden to be investigated by the Attorney General. Walter Isaacson, where do you want to start?
Well, he's totally unhinged. I mean, he was no more going to get the Nobel Peace Prize than I was, and it was ridiculous. But the main thing is he doesn't care about the people of Iowa. He doesn't care about the people of the United States. And what you want in the president is somebody who's not thinking about himself all the time, but he's thinking about what can I do to help this country. And this is a person with no genuine empathy, and all he does is go around saying, maybe I should win the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, this is insane. We've got a reality TV clown show that has jumped the shark, and the country needs a respite from it.
Complaining to a crowd in Iowa about coverage of something central to their lives, the flooding and the crops there. Professor Greer, I want to ask you about early voting, which obviously is going to play such a big part of what we'll see on Election Day. Began Monday in Florida. More than 366,000 voters went to the polls that day, according to data collected by the United States Elections Project. The number shatters the record set on Florida's first day of early voting 4 years ago, when 291,000 people cast their ballots. This includes mail-in ballots. More than 3 million people now have voted in the state of Florida already. Early voting data shows registered Democrats have been more likely to vote by mail in Florida, whereas in-person voting was about equal among Republicans and Democrats on the first day. Meanwhile, Democratic voters in Florida are being threatened purportedly from the far-right group the Proud Boys, urging them to vote for President Trump. Residents of Brevard County have received similar emails, including voters' names and addresses, in messages that read this way, quote, "You will vote for Trump on Election Day or we will come after you. Change your party affiliation to Republican to let us know you received our message and we'll comply. We will know which candidate you voted for. I would take this seriously if I were you." According to Florida Today, the domain for the sender's email, officialproudboys.com, was inactive by yesterday afternoon, although the site appears to have been previously affiliated with that group. Voter email addresses and physical addresses are generally public records available upon request. Voter intimidation is a federal offense subject up to 1 year imprisonment. So, Professor Greer, as you look at these long lines, let's start there in Florida, but we've seen them all over the place in the state of Georgia. We've seen long lines. What do you see? On the first day, some people said this is a disgrace. In America, you should not wait 12 hours to vote. I think we all agree on that. But isn't it also a sign of enthusiasm?
Willie, I mean, I think, some people look at those lines and they do see enthusiasm and they see inspiration, which I think is great that people are exercising one of the most sacred rights we have as U.S. citizens. However, I have to say, Willie, I am enraged when I see predominantly Black people and Latinx people standing in line for hours and hours. It screams of voter suppression. It screams of deliberate attempts by state governments and secretaries of state and governors to make sure that people have a difficult time exercising one of the most sacred rights, especially in the middle of a pandemic. We know that many people have to get out of line. They have to go to work. So even with early voting, which so many states have fought so hard to put into practice, it's still so difficult for someone to actually exercise one of their most basic rights as an American citizen. So I try and feel inspired. I think so many people are exhausted by these past 4 years, the antics of the president, the corruption, the lies, the theft, the just disgrace that has come upon the Oval Office, the disgrace that the Republican Party continues to show of themselves every day, that they behave as sycophants to the president, and just try and dissolve American ideals that we've been struggling to actually live up to for so long. So when I see those lines, I want to feel inspired, but I see it as a deliberate attempt to slow down the wheels of justice, and it makes me quite sad.
Mike Barnicle, you have a question for Walter.
Walter, off of a lot of what Christina just said, we hear every day, and in other places every day, and candidates every day running against Trumpism point out and say, this is not who we are. But the reality, Walter, is, as you know, living down there in New Orleans, as you know, the reality is that it might be who we are, because Trump never falls below 40% of the vote. He's always in between 40% and 45% of the vote. That means 40 to 45% of the people are going to vote for Donald J. Trump. So is it not the question on the ballot 13 days from now for Americans to vote, to finally come up with an answer of this is who we are?
You know, Mike, you've said this many times, and it is a question about the soul of the nation, and we are going to find out. I went, because of early voting, my wife, Kathy, and I were the first in line almost at the NBA basketball arena here in New Orleans. And I saw so many of my neighbors, so many friends coming up and getting in line to vote. And it made me sort of think, God bless America. When they try to suppress the vote, it seems, I hope, to say to people, no, our most sacred right, we're going to do whatever we can to come out and vote. And so I think you're totally right. We're going to see a referendum not just on Donald Trump, but on what is the American soul. What do we truly stand for? Do we stand for democracy? Do we stand for the rule of law? Do we stand for voting rights? And I'm pretty confident that watching the American people this time around, it's like, okay, we need a break from this.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.